This is the graphics card you should be buying. And yes, you can get it, and I'll explain why right now. Hey YouTube, what's going on? I'm Danny with Danny's Tech Channel. If you're a returning viewer, thanks for coming back. If you're a new viewer, sit down and let's talk about some tech. This right here is the GeForce RTX 3060 XC Gaming from EVGA. I actually have two RTX 3060s now, and me proving to you that it is possible is right here on the table. There's actually three major ways that you can get a hold of an RTX card right now. So I'll give you a little tip real quick. If you haven't already been on these things, these are things you can try. First off, Newegg has their Shuffle program. I'm sure you've heard about it by now. If you haven't, every day from Monday through Saturday, they do a shuffle right around noon or so. You can go on their website and you can sign up for the shuffle. It's real easy. They will email you, they will text you, and they will tell you when this stuff is going on. The flip side of the shuffle, the bad part of it is, they usually pair the graphics cards with something that you don't want, like a motherboard or a power supply. Sometimes they even pair monitors with it, which I think is actually a good deal because you're getting a decent price and a guaranteed graphics card. And when you buy a nicer upgraded graphics card, you may want to upgrade your monitor anyways, so it's kind of a win-win for me. The second way, Best Buy has sales of all their graphics cards. They only release them about every 2 weeks or so. It ranges from Thursday, Friday, sometimes Wednesdays, I think. But you really got to stay on it for those. I've not gotten a card from that yet, but I have heard of people getting them, and when they do release, they release a lot of cards at one time. So keep your eyes on Best Buy, you may be lucky. The final way to get a graphics card is how I just got this EVGA one. It's from the EVGA Queue system. This is the most guaranteed way to get a card because you reserve a place in line, essentially. You go into their website, you click what card you want, it says out of stock, obviously, and then it will put your name in their queue for when your name is finally drawn. They'll send you an email and tell you, hey, you can buy this card. Now you have a certain amount of time, I think it's 8 hours or so, to be able to purchase the card. It'll tell you in the email how long you have. I mean, it's a guaranteed way to get a card. I'm living proof of it. I actually entered the EVGA queue on 2/25/2021 at 12:08 p.m. Pacific time. So if you're in line for the queue and you're awaiting your 3060, that can give you an idea of how long you'd be waiting in the queue for. Now, the best part about EVGA's graphics cards here, these little ones, not only the size, but the price. The EVGA RTX 3060 XC Gaming comes in at $399.99 USD. This is one of the cheapest RTX 3060s. Actually, this is one of the cheapest new NVIDIA graphics cards you can get. I bought an Asus RTX 3060 Tough Gaming, and I paid $509.99 for that one. That's a $110 difference for the exact same graphics card. And actually, I just got on the Newegg Shuffle today. They have the Asus ROG Strix one, the 3060. The price for that on the Shuffle is $675. Now, it also comes with a B450 motherboard, but why would you buy a B450 motherboard with a new RTX 30 series card? I would just get a B550 or a X570 or something a little bit more modernized than that for this style card, but it's up to you. If you want to overpay, go for it. My favorite things about this card are that it has a small, simple design and it can fit in any case that requires a dedicated graphics card. This thing is so tiny. The cooler is the size of the PCB. And my favorite part about the card, besides the size, is that they got rid of the ugly red end caps to this thing. Now it's black. When the card came out, they were red to match this red stripe on the back plate here. It only requires a 550 watt power supply. Now that's recommended. You could probably even get away with a lower grade power supply, like a 500 watt or so, because the card only draws 170 watts. It's a single pin, 8-pin power connector, and it's a standard old power connector, not like the reference style card's 12-pin connector or anything on the 3080s and 3070s. It has 12 gigs of VRAM. It has a metal backplate, and my favorite thing about this, Re-sizeable BAR is already set up right out of the box. You don't have to do any kind of VBIOS updates or anything like that. But I'll talk about Re-sizeable BAR in a little bit. First thing I want to talk about is the difference between this card and the Tough Gaming card I have from ASUS. They're the same thing, you know, both 3060s, both 12 gigs of VRAM. This card's tiny, the other card is massive, and the other card costs $110 more. I did a video recently where I used the Lee & Lee 011 Dynamic Mini, and I threw a whole build together with that. It has an i9 10850K, 16 gigs of RAM, a 1 terabyte hard drive on an MSI Z490 Tomahawk motherboard. I decided just to pull the graphics card out of that and throw these into it just to do the testing. Plus it gives it kind of a realistic feel because it's in a case, it's not on a test bench. So this is kind of something you can expect out of the best possible scenario. Because I mean the i9, that's as good as you can get. But if you look at the chart here, the EVGA card is really not far off of the ASUS Tough Gaming card. For control, it was 79.5 and 94.4 for the ASUS one. Now, these games are all played on max settings, 1080p. I just wanted to be able to stress the GPU as much as possible. It ran 99% utilization. There was really nothing going on the CPU side of things, and it was the same CPU to keep it consistent. As you can see, it's an awesome little card. I think it performs really well, even against the Tough Gaming Edition, which is a bigger card and can overclock even higher because of the extra cooling support. Now, how do you make up that gap? Re-sizeable BAR. Re-sizeable BAR is NVIDIA's newest technology to be able to compete with AMD. What Re-sizeable BAR does, to make it plain and simple, it enables a faster transfer of game data from the CPU to the GPU. Re-sizeable BAR is meant to increase the gaming performance in certain titles. Now, like I said before, the best thing about these 3060 cards, whether it be an EVGA one or an ASUS one or an MSI one, the 3060s are all set up right out of the box. The very first thing you need to check if you want to use Re-sizeable BAR is whatever motherboard you're using, you need to go to that motherboard's website and see if they allow Re-sizeable BAR. Z490, Z590 motherboards, at least I know on MSI's side of things, are all compatible with it. They show it on their website, this is good, that's good. Now you have to have your BIOS up to date on that motherboard, so if you don't know how to update your BIOS, you may want to look into that beforehand so that you have the most current version. After you've checked that your motherboard is compatible, you need to make sure you have a compatible CPU. On the plus side of this is that if you have a compatible motherboard like a Z490, Z590, or AMD's variants, the B550 or the X570, you're already probably most likely compatible with the CPU side because all Intel 10th gen and 11th gen, i3 to i9 for the 10th gen and i5 to the i9 for the 11th gen are compatible with Re-sizeable BAR. So now Intel is in the game. On the AMD side, only Ryzen 5000 series processors are compatible. So if you have a Ryzen 3000 series or Zen 2, sorry, you're out of luck. Now, unfortunately, I was only able to do one game with Re-sizeable BAR enabled, but once I went in and got everything set up and I was good to go, I played Control. Control is on their list of games that they've approved for Re-sizeable BAR. The list is kind of small right now, but it's actually just like ray tracing and DLSS when NVIDIA first came out with that. The list was small and it has since grown astronomically. In fact, every day NVIDIA adds stuff to DLSS. But my increase when I enabled the Re-sizeable BAR was only 1 to 2 FPS in Control. Over the 3-run average, I got 79.5 before and I got 81.2 after Re-sizeable BAR was enabled. So it really wasn't a big jump for me. Maybe games in the future will start to utilize this stuff more. I really don't know. I haven't done enough with Re-sizeable BAR, but I'm going to be looking into it and I'll give you more in-depth information about Re-sizeable BAR in a future video. And if a video like that interests you, make sure you subscribe down below and turn on the bell notification so you'll get notified as soon as I make that video and put it live. To me, the biggest benefit to NVIDIA's cards is DLSS. This is kind of a side note to this thing. It really doesn't pertain just to EVGA. This is all of NVIDIA together. DLSS lets you play your game at a lower resolution and then it upscales it to a higher resolution to output those displays. To put it plain and simple, when you're playing a game, say you want to play Cyberpunk or something, it has to be on a DLSS approved listing, and you'll know when you go into the game settings, you can actually turn on and off DLSS. You'll turn it on and it will render the game at 1080p and then it will upscale it to 1440p or 4K or whatever you're playing at, your resolution display. It gives you two options. It'll show you your render resolution and it'll show you the display resolution. So it's saving your graphical horsepower and getting you increased frame rates while running at a lower rate. Does that make sense? DLSS came out for ray tracing, really. NVIDIA released DLSS as like a benefit to ray tracing because ray tracing gives you such a big performance hit. They needed to find a way to bring that back up to the normal tier of gaming. Out of everything with this little graphics card, like I said, I really love it. I love how small it is. It pretty much fits in anything. The only thing I don't like, and EVGA, if you're listening, which I doubt you are, switch this connector around. This power connector is upside down compared to every other graphics card. Asus, MSI, Gigabyte, you name it, their cards are flipped upside down. The actual tab for the connector is on the top side on everyone else's cards. EVGA does theirs backwards, they do it on the bottom. So anytime, if you have another graphics card that's not EVGA and you go to plug it in, you have to figure out how to twist your cables upside down to plug it in. But honestly, if that's my only gripe with this graphics card, I'd say it's a good product. And also, this graphics card is going in my personal rig with my NZXT H1. Yes, I already replaced the riser cable. It is perfectly fine now. But it's the perfect size card for my little computer. I can play some games at 1080p max settings, and I can do a little bit of video editing on the side. So I'm gonna go throw it in the case. And as I always say, I'm Danny with Danny's Tech Channel, and I'll see you in the next video.
You got me stone cold.